You're here for the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I want to talk about immigration. So obviously Trump has said in the campaign, and now since he's been elected, registry for Muslims, and then of course getting the 2 to 3 million undocumented immigrants, getting them out of the country. And of course he still wants to build the wall and still thinks Mexico's going to pay for it. It's impossible. So here's why it's a bad idea. First, the terrorist groups. Some of them are Muslims, so we need to know which Muslims are the good ones and the bad ones. All right. So we had the shooting, I believe, in San Bernardino. I believe the Orlando shooting. You've had Boston, and then you've had some of these things that have happened in Europe, where recently they've just jumped into trucks and stuff. Yeah, it's scary. Terrorism is a scary thing. Here's why that policy is short-sighted and also will not make us safer. First of all, if you start rounding people up or putting them on or just deporting people, right? So they did that in the 80s and it didn't work. And what that does, law enforcement, high-ranking law enforcement officials have said this, that it doesn't work because it actually then makes those communities unwilling to talk to law enforcement about actual crimes. I have a good friend of mine that's a cop who said this. So look at it this way. So you start rounding up people in the Muslim community or Latino community, right? And you're getting deported. Now an actual crime happens in that neighborhood. And almost all cases are solved by somebody, eyewitness, evidence. Did you see something? Somebody heard something? They're not going to talk to the cops. No one's going to talk to the cops. It's a bad idea. It makes it harder to find out what happened. What we should be doing is embracing these communities. There was a 20 million Muslim march in November, and I'll talk about that separately, that wasn't even talked about by the mainstream media in America. There's a large portion of Muslims that are like, we don't want to be a part of ISIS. This is bad for all of us. We don't like it. It's also, in terms of the undocumented, here's why it's a mistake. Like, giving people a path to citizenship. Let them become citizens. First of all, here's what you do. Everybody then gets a driver's license, right? So now you're getting all those fees. So 2 to 3 million people paying whatever a driver's license fee is in whatever state, 50, 60, $80 or whatever. So there's hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions. And then you have a lot of undocumented. They're undocumented. So the small majority of them that do commit crimes, we have no way to track them down. We have no way for anything. Right? Somebody commits a crime and they just make up a name. How do we know? We have no idea. If we allowed them to get citizenship, then also they're going to start paying taxes. So that helps our tax revenue. I'll give you another example here in the state of California. California has some of the highest car insurance of any state in America. Why? It has a very high rate of uninsured motors. The majority of the uninsured motors are undocumented immigrants. The reason most of them don't have insurance is because in order to get insurance, you need to have a driver's license. Boom! Gee, I wonder if we could solve that problem. If everyone was allowed to get a driver's license, the state of California would get all those fees. Insurance companies, although I'm not a big fan of supporting insurance companies, I don't know that they need any more money, but they would get money. And insurance rates theoretically would go down. The government would have to hold the insurance companies to that, of course, because they will look for any reason to raise your rates, because they're an industry I don't really trust. But theoretically, the rates would go down, and you'd have more insured motorists. Because when you have insurance and you get hit by an uninsured motorist, even if it's 100% their fault, you have to pay, and your insurance rates goes up. And if they just that person's undocumented, let's round them up and send them home. Again, then they're just gone. You're stuck with the bill. You're stuck with the smashed up car. It's bad. It's bad policy all around. It's a horrible idea. It's, again, more short-sighted. Round them up. If we're going to just, and because they're dangerous, okay, so that kid, that white supremacist kid that shot up that church in South Carolina, okay, should we start a registry for white Christian males because they've done that awful stuff? Did we do that after the Oklahoma City bombing? No, we haven't, because it's crazy. We wouldn't do that to white people, now would we? Especially not with this White House. So it doesn't make sense. We need to let people become citizens. The Statue of Liberty doesn't say, give me you're sick, you're tired, you're poor, provided they're white, heterosexual Christians. It doesn't say that. It's for everybody. And if you really, one of the reasons, and going back to Islamic fundamentalists, they recruit. One of the things they do is they find disenfranchised people who have nothing, and they recruit them, or they say, look how evil the West is. Look how evil America and Israel and Europe, look how they treat us. And that's how they recruit. If we were coming to them saying, hey, you're allowed to worship here and whatever you think, and we gain their trust, and then say, you know, if there is a terror cell or someone willing to come in, you need to let us know. And you'll still be allowed, and we won't come and lock you up. All that does is make people more isolated. It helps with their recruiting. And I know then conservatives hear that and go, oh, so we should just let the terrorists run free, blah, blah. It's always some overreaction. No, that's how, talk to any detective. Talk to a police detective and how they get case and how they gain the trust of people, how they break cases, how they solve, like, murder cases. Ask them how they do that. They don't do it by just kicking down doors and arresting everybody. No one will help them. All right, guys. Political Vigilante. I'm Graham Elwood. Like it, subscribe to it, share it. Hello, I'm Graham Elwood, and welcome to another episode of the Political Vigilante. Today I want to go over an article that was in the money section of the USA Today on Tuesday, January 24th. It was written by Mark Felon. The title of the article is Why the Auto Industry Can't Really Bring All the Jobs Back. So Trump has, been threatening car companies since he got elected of keeping jobs in America. I've talked about it. I'm sure keeping jobs in America, I think overall that's a good thing. The auto industry was something that actually Obama did save. And this article is going to go into sort of some of the statements that the auto companies have made and the reality of it. So a quick statistic here, U.S. auto exports hit a record 2.7 million in 2016. We exported 2.7 million American cars around the world this past year, 2016. So Trump did not mention automakers specifically in his inaugural address Friday, taking a break after taking them to task repeatedly in tweets about the need to bring jobs back to the United States, but they have already learned how to succeed in the new political environment. Facing the president's willingness to criticize individual companies, which when he does, their stocks go down, smart automakers will package their investment plans in ways aimed at delighting the White House. Here's where the industry stands on key issues involving the new administration. So here's a statement. Ford canceled the $2.6 billion plant in Mexico to make the focus and brought the work back to America because Trump threatened him. The reality, Ford canceled plans to build a new assembly plant in Mexico. Bad news for Mexico, but not necessarily good news for the United States. The move, however, didn't prevent the moving of production of the Focus compact car from Michigan to Mexico. Ford just won't go to a new plant there. Instead, Focus will be built at a plant that Ford opened in 1986 during the Reagan administration, 7 years before NAFTA. This is how it's getting done. Here's another statement. Moving Focus production to Mexico would have cost American jobs. That was the notion. The reality, the Wayne assembly plant in suburban Michigan that built the Focus and other small cars is converting to build the midsize Ranger pickup and the Bronco SUV. Well, we didn't hear this in Trumpy's tweets. The plant's workers will be idle during the changeover, but their jobs should be more secure when they start making the trucks, which are likely to be more popular and profitable than small cars. The Ranger goes on sale next year, the Bronco in 2019. Interesting. Here's another statement. Detractors have charged that the U.S. doesn't export enough vehicles and we're losing in the global market. As I just said, U.S. auto exports hit a record 2.7 million in 2016. Says John McElroy of TV's Autoline. America ships vehicles to 150 countries around the world. Ward's Auto reports our largest trading partners are Canada, China, Mexico, and Germany, which I've been to China numerous times, and since their economy has really exploded in the last 10 years, one of the fanciest things you can get is an American car, like a Buick. I saw all these people driving all these fancy Buicks, which usually that's something only, your parents drive in America, but that's like a big fancy car. So 969,000 cars went to Canada, China 266,000, Mexico 225,000, and Germany 176,000. American-based companies build millions more vehicles around the world, the great majority of which they sell in the markets where they build them. So that's one thing we do as well. In addition to exporting cars that are built here in America, all of these companies have plants to make the whole process cheaper. And they also, there's certain cars, if you travel a lot, you'll see like the Ford and then some Ford brand you've never heard of that is literally just made in and sold in that country or that part of the world. Statement, GM should build the Chevrolet Cruze hatchback in the U.S., not Mexico. There probably wouldn't be a Cruze hatchback if GM had to build it in the United States. The Cruze hatch is the poster child for why interconnected global manufacturing footprints make automakers stronger. Chevy sold about 184,000 Cruze sedans in America last year, all built in Lordstown, Ohio. It brought 4,500 hatchbacks in from Mexico. GM wouldn't have invested millions of dollars for that few vehicles in its plant in Lordstown, Ohio, but it makes sense to build them in Mexico, where the body style is popular and they sell well. Without Mexican production, the 4,500 Americans who bought Cruze hatchbacks might be lost to other car brands. That's a good point. Statement, Germany should buy more American cars. Germans already buy. The reality is Germans already buy hundreds of thousands of cars GM and Ford make in Germany, although the situation isn't helped by German Minister of Economics and Vice Chancellor Sigmar Gabriel's tart response that Americans should build better cars. Oh, the Germans, they kind of like their cars and they think they're the best ones on the planet. So this is good. This kind of brings it into the reality, and this is why is NAFTA a good thing or is it a bad thing? Doesn't seem like it's been that great of a thing. But also, this is some hard evidence that, the auto industry in specific has been doing, they got bailed out, and some people were against that bailed out. Oh, government's giving too much money. Why they shouldn't. I heard some people say, oh, we shouldn't bail out the auto industry. Well, we did, and it worked, and now the auto industry has just every year had record sales, and then the next year they break their record sales. So, and some of the parts are made in other countries, and some of the parts are made here, and a lot of the assembly is done here. So, fighting for American jobs is a good thing, but let's get the facts. It's like the carrier thing when Trump first got elected, and he kept those. He said 1,100 jobs in the carrier plant in Indiana. It turned out only being 700, and then they got a $7 million government, tax break for a carrier had a $4.5 billion profit last year. Sarah Palin called it crony capitalism. One of the few times ever I would ever agree with that moose hunter. So we're gonna stick to the facts here, the political vigilante guys, and we're gonna track it down. So pay close attention, read the fine lines, because that's the thing. Like that carrier deal, and then the union guy was mad, and then Trump went after the union guy. Every time he doesn't get his way, he pouts on Twitter. So read up. Thanks, guys. Like this video, subscribe, share it to your friends, spread the word, and give me your comments. If you come across some interesting articles, let me know. I'd love to talk about them. If there's something I'm out there, there's a million things to talk about. Thanks for watching.